Cairo. With a population of 20 million people, it's the largest city in Africa. Today, it's the capital of the Arab Republic of Egypt. Cairo is known as the City of 1,000 Minarets. It holds one of the greatest concentrations of historical monuments of Islamic architecture anywhere in the world. Overlooking the city is the Great Mosque of Muhammad Ali Pasha. Today, the country of Egypt is home to over 100 million people, and Islam is its official state religion. The Greek historian Herodotus called Egypt the gift of the Nile. Stretching over 4,000 miles across the vast Sahara Desert, the Nile is the longest river on Earth. Its basin crosses the borders of 11 countries, and today, over 300 million people across Eastern Africa depend on it as a source of fresh water. More than 10,000 years ago, nomadic hunter-gatherers began to emerge in this region and slowly began to settle into some of the world's first agricultural societies. Around 3000 BC, the regional king Narmer would unite the small independent kingdoms of the Nile Valley and establish one of the world's first great empires. It was the age of the pyramid builders. Five miles west of modern Cairo lie the last remaining wonders of the ancient world. The Great Pyramids of Giza. Initially standing at almost 500 feet tall, the largest Great Pyramid was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for almost 4,000 years. By the time of the construction of the pyramids, the kings of Egypt were viewed as living gods, responsible for maintaining the order of the universe in this life and the next. Egyptologists believe that the Great Pyramid was built as a tomb for the 4th dynasty Egyptian pharaoh Khufu around 2500 BC. Khafre, the son of Khufu, is generally credited with the construction of the Great Sphinx, which perhaps bears his likeness. 20 miles south of Giza, the Saqqarra necropolis is dominated by the step pyramid of Djoser. Constructed in the 27th century BC, it is perhaps mankind's first monumental structure made of stone, and suggests that at this time the royal government had a new level of control of both material and human resources. While the iconic pyramids have come to symbolize the power of ancient Egypt, the majority of Egyptian royal tombs throughout history were instead cut into rock. On the west bank of the Nile, across from the modern-day city of Luxor, lies the Valley of the Kings. For nearly 500 years, it was the principal burial place of the royal figures of the Egyptian New Kingdom. It was in this New Kingdom period, from the 16th to the 11th centuries BC, that saw the Egyptian Empire's borders reach their maximum extent. And it's also when its kings first adopted the title of Pharaoh. The valley is known to contain 64 tombs, ranging greatly in size, some having over 100 rooms. To ensure safe passage of the dead on their journey, the walls of the tomb were decorated with instructions of how to navigate the perils of the underworld. Although almost all of the tombs were plundered in antiquity, today they nevertheless give us an idea of the opulence and power of the pharaohs. The tomb of Tutankhamun is now world famous because it was one of the few not thoroughly looted in ancient times. The pharaoh would have been buried with everything they could have possibly desired, ensuring that the next life was just as sumptuous as the one they led here on Earth. After being mummified, the deceased would be sealed in an elaborately decorated sarcophagus. To prevent decay of the body, the organs of the dead would be removed and stored in these canopic jars. Only the heart, which was believed to be the seat of the soul, would remain in the body. But before being mummified and laid to rest during their lifetime, it was tradition for a pharaoh to commission a lavish mortuary temple. Like this one at MEDINET HABU, constructed by Ramses III. These temples were designed to commemorate the glory of Pharaoh's reign, depicting their success as a lawgiver, as well as in battle. After their death, the mortuary temple would serve as the center for the pharaoh's cult, where they would be worshipped as an incarnation of Horus, the god of kingship and the sky. Carved into the cliffs of the Valley of the Kings sits a testament to the power of one of Egypt's most powerful queens. The Mortuary Temple of Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut, whose name means foremost of the noble ladies, came to the throne of Egypt in 1478 BC. After overseeing the dramatic expansion of its trade networks, she became one of the most prolific builders in ancient Egypt, commissioning hundreds of construction projects across the empire. She is today regarded by Egyptologists as one of the most successful pharaohs, reigning longer than any other woman of a native Egyptian dynasty. Her magnificent funerary temple marks a turning point in the architecture of ancient Egypt, forsaking the megalithic geometry of the Old Kingdom for an open plan which allowed for active worship from participants. The modern city of Luxor was known to the Greeks as Thebes. With a history stretching 5,000 years, it's one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. For centuries, it was the political, religious, and military capital of ancient Egypt. Luxor Temple is dedicated to the rejuvenation of divine kingship. Some archaeologists contend it may have been the place where the pharaohs of Egypt, including later foreigners like Alexander the Great, were coronated. Part of the temple was converted to a church by the Romans and then to a mosque in 640, which still operates to this day, making Luxor Temple the world's oldest active religious site. With the rise of Thebes as the foremost city of Egypt, the local god Amun rose in importance as well. His massive temple at Karnak, just north of Thebes, was the most important temple of ancient Egypt. The key difference between Karnak and most of the other temples and sites in Egypt is the length of time over which it was developed and used. Construction started in the Middle Kingdom and continued into Ptolemaic times, a period of 2,000 years. Approximately 30 pharaohs contributed to the buildings, enabling it to reach a level of size and complexity not seen anywhere else. Its great hippo-style hall covers an area of 50,000 square feet and contains 134 massive stone columns. Carved in the shape of a papyrus reed, the columns represent the primeval swamp from which Amun arose from the waters of chaos at the beginning of creation. As the wealth of the empire expanded, so too did the power of the temple's elite class of high priests, sometimes even eclipsing that of Pharaoh. Starting around the year 1080 BC, the priesthood had accumulated such vast resources in the form of wealth and property that they were effectively able to control every aspect of the Egyptian economy, for nearly 200 years. To the Greeks and Romans, the civilization of Egypt was unfathomably ancient and incredibly alluring. To both Alexander the Great and later Roman emperors, Egypt was an irresistible prize. The island of Philae is home to monuments from the rule of pharaohs to the time of the Caesars. The most ancient structure on the island is a temple dedicated to the goddess Isis. The construction of the Aswan Dam in the 1960s threatened the flooding and destruction of Philae, along with more than 22 other Egyptian monuments. In response, the United Nations launched an unprecedented and concerted international effort to safeguard these treasures of our collective human heritage. Between 1977 and 1980, the entirety of the Philae complex was painstakingly dismantled and rebuilt on a nearby higher island, protecting it from the waters of Lake Nasser. Undoubtedly, the most impressive work of the UNESCO Nubian Salvage Campaign was the preservation of the monuments at Abu Simbel. Over a period of 4 years beginning in 1964, a multinational team of archaeologists, engineers, and skilled heavy equipment operators carefully cut the monuments into large blocks of up to 30 tons apiece. In one of the greatest challenges of archaeological engineering in history. 4 colossal 70-foot tall statues were originally carved out of the mountainside in the 13th century BC. During the reign of Ramses the Great, often regarded as the most powerful pharaoh of the New Kingdom. Today, hundreds of visitors flock to Abu Simbel daily, continuing to marvel at the unprecedented ingenuity of our ancient ancestors.